This is Prince Handley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love. The voice of Israel and for Israel. Israel and Bibi, I want to talk to you today about beware the 5 blind mice. Let's talk about blind mouse number 1, USA pressure and Israeli security. Israel has permitted the entire Fatah leaderships of Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, some 500 enemies of Israel, to enter the country for the first Fatah General Conference in 25 years, which opened yesterday, Tuesday, August 4th, in Bethlehem. U.S. National Security Advisor James Jones command-ordered a list of Palestinian terrorists that Obama wanted to be present at the Fatah meeting. The list included General Sultan Abu Ayyan, for 30 years commander of Fatah terrorist operations and shelling attacks from Lebanon against Israeli targets, and Khaled Abu Asba, one of the 11 Fatah killers who blew up an Israeli bus on the Tel Aviv highway in 1978, killing 35 Israelis, and among them were babies whom the terrorists burnt alive. Now let's talk about mousetrap number 1. Never let your wife's lover tell you how to treat your wife. Bibi and Israel, stop letting people, the U.S., the EU, and the UN, tell you how to run your government. The U.S. will not even tell Korea, Iran, and Venezuela how to run their governments. The U.S. lets China imprison, torture, and kill Christians because the U.S. owes China too much money. Israel, stop letting a corrupt, weak-kneed political machine tell you what to do. It's your country. Control it the way you feel is best. Let's talk about blind mouse number 2. USA negotiations with Syria and Lebanon. The Saudis clearly see the foolishness of wasting time on the Israeli-Palestinian situation. Fatah and Hamas will never agree and join ranks, except against Israel. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Saud al-Fazal abruptly rejected Obama's strategy for the Middle East, including détente with Syria, as secondary, untimely, and in so many words, utter foolishness in perspective to the key problem, Iran and nuclear aggression. Israel, I warned you about this in my podcast of July 15, 2009, titled Israel, New Forces in Middle East Parlance. By the way, you can find the link for that and any other podcast I refer to in this program in the show notes. As in domestic policy and programs, the young, unexperienced U.S. president is trying to place several flanks in public view to draw attention away from one item per line. If or when he fails, the per-line failure is not as easy to focus upon as if several irons are in the fire simultaneously. It is simply a throw-everything-at-the-wall approach with the side strategy of diffusing, objective, penetrating focus. It is the non-systematic way of attacking or trying to solve problems when you either do not know what to do or are impotent in formulating a solution. It makes you look like you're doing some things. Let's discuss mousetrap number 2. Israel and Bibi, do not let yourself be drawn into situations created by disinterested third parties. The U.S. is acting as an escrow agent in Land for Peace scam. However, Obama and the political machinery of the U.S. is not disinterested. The more you let the U.S., the EU, and the UN pull you off course, Israel, the more diffused your focus will become, and the more confused you will become. Do not let them drain your time and efforts. Focus on Iran and do what you have to do. Now let's talk about blind mouse number 3. Obama finally has a plan for dealing with Iran. President Barack Obama is changing his strategy for impeding Iran's drive for a nuclear bomb. After diplomacy, then harsh sanctions, then preparations for military action, in which Iran's Revolutionary Guards may be first in the line of U.S. fire. Thankfully, Israel, you weren't attacked by Iran before now. But wait a minute. Are we assuming the U.S. would have helped you if you had been attacked? The U.S. knew, as in first only plan, dealing with Iran's nuclear threats is similar to a double entendre by a sleazy comedian. Think it over. Continue attempts at diplomatic engagement with Iran up until early September. If diplomacy fails, harsher sanctions to be implemented. And then if both diplomacy and harsher sanctions fail, resort to military options. And now let's discuss mousetrap number 3, or blind mouse number 3. First of all, if you will consult any of my previous podcasts on this issue, you will see where I have advised you Iran wants the advantage of time and will do anything to gain time, even taking part in negotiations with the U.S. if it has to. Concerning the factor of time and negotiations, consult my podcast of March 31st, 2009, titled Israel, Iran, and Turkey, the Jerusalem Factor. As for sanctions against Iran, they will be too little, too late. Also, what would be needed to be effective would be across-the-board action by other countries. Russia is too interested in selling military weapons and training for them to be interested in sanctions against Iran. Secondly, when and how do you trust a liar? Iran lies, Obama lies, Israel and Bibi, stop putting all of your eggs in one basket. Ishawahu, or Isaiah the prophet, warned Israel about trusting or putting their trust in the help of foreign powers. If you'll read in the Tanakh in Isaiah chapter 30, verses 2 and 3, and chapter 31, verse 1, Isaiah tells us what God says about those that walk to go down into Mitzrayim, or Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong, but they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. Israel and Bibi, trust the God of Israel, and do what you have to. Attack Iran now. Let's discuss blind mouse number 4. Russia builds key naval base in Syria. The Russian Navy is building up its maintenance base near Tartus, Syria, as its central base for strategic operations in the Mediterranean and Red Sea, and in the Atlantic and Indian Ocean. Check my blog on Russia and Israel, the economy, on the news page of the website at www.podcastsatellite.com. Russia is providing Syria 300 PMU-2 and Iskander-E missile systems, supposedly as a shield to defend their naval facility in Syria. This missile presence is another thorn in Israel's side, and not one to be dealt with lightly. Russia is, of course, in bed with Syria and Iran, so just take it from there. And now for mousetrap number 4. Israel and Bibi, if you procrastinate and go along with the U.S. concerning their 3-step plan for dealing with Iran, Russia will know all the intel concerning your strategies, your timelines, and your objectives with regard to Iran. Your best bet is to work alone, even if under the table, and depend upon intel as to the timelines of Iranian nuclear progress from Hamasad Lemodim Velatafkedim Mayahadim. As for the Russian naval base in Tartus, let Unit 504 and Komimute keep you informed. If the U.S. is really interested in helping you, Israel, let them take care of the Russian base in Syria during their negotiations with Syria. The Syrian-Russian harlotry can be dealt with when the time comes later on, Israel. As for now, focus on Iran. The longer you wait to attack Iran, the longer that all your enemies have to prepare. And now let's talk about blind mouse number 5, U.S. Pentagon to augment bunker buster program. Due to the nuclear ambitions of Iran and North Korea, the U.S. is wanting to carry out production of the non-nuclear 30,000-pound Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOP, M-O-P, which is designed to destroy deeply buried bunkers. The stealth B-2 bomber is capable of carrying these bombs. The Department of Defense hopes to have deployment ready for action by July 2010. The London Times, quoting Western intel, says that it will take Iran 6 months to enrich enough uranium and another 6 months to develop the warhead. And you can see that that approximates or would coincide with the U.S. projection for deployment capability of the MOP. So let's talk about mousetrap number 5. Israeli and U.S. intelligence reports differ on the ability of Iran to produce an active, attack-ready warhead. The U.S. estimates a longer timeline than that presented by Israeli intel. U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates and National Security Advisor James Jones want Israel to defer to the U.S. timeline and leave the Iranian nuclear threat to the United States. Israel and Bibi, this is a twofold plan of theirs. Number 1, to make the U.S. look good, while number 2, enriching the coffers of politicians and contractors, which would not hurt Israel pragmatically, but it has a two-edged sword that is grievously disadvantageous militarily and politically for Israel. Caveat A, or side 1 of the two-edged sword, if the U.S. timeline projection for Iran's potential deployment of a nuclear warhead is wrong or too long, Israel has sacrificed time. Israel and Bibi, you cannot sacrifice time. Bibi, all you have in life is time. If you lose your time, you lose your life. Let me give you an example. I told my children one year at Hanukkah and Christmas that we would go to a large city, and there I would give them cash to buy whatever they wanted. I told my oldest of the 7 children, Ariel, to remind me to take something with me when we went to the city. On the way there, I realized that she forgot to tell me. This required me to turn around and go back for the item. I told Ariel, if you steal my time, you steal my life. I only have so much time in life. To teach you a lesson, my time is worth at least $200 an hour to God. I'm going to be kind and only charge you $20. My daughter said, Daddy, I don't have any money. Where will I get it? I said, then you will have to ask God to provide it for you. After the holidays, when Ariel went back to school, as she walked out of one of her classes, she found $20. When she brought it to me, I told her, I knew I should have charged you more. A hard lesson for a young girl, but it taught her a great principle in business and life that she has never forgotten. Israel and Bibi, do not lean on the U.S. or its timeline. Attack Iran now. Caveat B, or side 2 of the two-edged sword? Why is it only now that the U.S. is coming up with specific plans concerning Iran? I know, but I'm asking you to make you think. Rahm Emanuel has said, Rule 1, never allow a crisis to go to waste. They are opportunities to do big things. Bibi, Israel's crisis will be capitalized on by the Obama administration. None of Obama's Middle East options have worked. Therefore, he has to make an about-face and come up with a new plan to save face. However, in due time, the U.S. will back out of extending military help to Israel, vis-a-vis an attack against Iran. Obama will find a way not to help Israel. In the meantime, he needs to forge a greater alliance with Saudi Arabia. And the only way Obama can do this is, number one, implement strong perceived military actions against Iran, and number two, in the future, decline to help Israel and attempt to position Israel into a pincer where she will have to accept land for peace and make major concessions with the Palestinians. Israel and Bibi, you are being set up by the President of the United States, Barack Obama. His military advisors do not recognize this yet. When they do, many will resign, and then the U.S. will never again have a strong military to defend its own citizenry. It will have a government military controlling the citizenry. Israel's coup de grace will be attempted by Obama in order to create an environment of national and international panic that he can walk into with the answer, first, to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and second, with the answer to peace in the Middle East. Obama's aspirations are larger than being President of the United States, and Israel is being used as a pawn in the process. So in addition to the mousetraps, here is some other advice for you, Bibi and Israel. Israel, I have pleaded with you for 3 years. Stop pandering to the EU, the UN, and the U.S. They are not going to support you in the future. Your only hope is in Yahweh Nissi, the Lord your banner. He will fight for you. Go it alone. Trust God. Do what you have to, Israel. Gideon won a huge victory with one helper. Jonathan won a huge victory and brought hope to Israel with his armor-bearer. One housewife, Yael, slew the leader of the enemies with a tent peg. Devorah, a prophetess, brought victory to Israel and had courage even when the general of the armies did not have the courage to go out to war unless she went with him. Why? He knew she had the anointing of the Spirit of God, the Ruach Elohim. The young man David defeated the Philistine giant Goliath with a slingshot. What is in your hands, Israel? What is in your arsenal? Use it. Go out in the name of the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. The Spirit of God, the Ruach Elohim, will be there when you need Him. Bibi and Israel, men and nations are not going to help you, but the Holy One of Israel will. This has been the Voice of Israel, and this is your friend, Prince Handley, coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai.